Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Hoskins, Dealer Customer Strategy Manager, joined by David Hahn from L&D, as well as a group of panelists from our Merillat brand. Super excited to have everyone here today. Before we get started, a few quick ground rules. Wanted to let everyone know that this call is being recorded. If you need to step away or you have to log off, don't worry. We're going to post this on cabinetryinfo.com. We're going to email this out, and your rep will also have a copy. We'll have that available probably later this week for you. In addition, you will also get a copy of the deck, so you'll get everything that we talked about. Most important thing for today is our Q&A box, as David had mentioned earlier. If you have any comments, questions, anything you need to get to the team, feedback, please put it in the Q&A box. We're going to be monitoring that and answering those things live. Super excited. We have not had a launch call in a very long time, so it feels good to be back, and we have a lot to cover. So with that, I will hand it over to you, David.
Excellent. Thank you, Lauren. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the Merillat Masterpiece Collection 2022 new product launch. Now, again, this year, as Lauren made mention, we're excited to bring you a lot of new features. We're going to be talking about beautiful trend-focused colors. We're also looking at beneficial updates on products and enhancements, and we'll also be talking about 2020 design. Now, all this will be available to you on 9/20, and if you go to Cabinetry Info for Merillat Masterpiece, you'll be able to find the catalogs are already there and available for download. Just remember, available order date is on 9/20 and moving forward. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Guys, I have a lot to cover today. So let's go ahead and roll right into it, and we're going to keep a pretty good pace, but even though we're going to keep a good pace, don't forget that Q&A box is there for you, so be sure you type in your questions throughout the entire session today. Now, when we look at our table of contents, everything we're going to talk about today, number one, we're going to be talking a lot about new, streamlined, and trend concentrated. So when you think about a typical product launch, you might think about updates that make it easier and more enjoyable to design those really beautiful and stunning spaces. This year is no exception, but the updates we're making in 2022, they're a bit different than what you might expect in a traditional or typical product launch. Now, first, we will have fresh new colors, and as usual, we're excited to bring you inspiring, style-forward products and colors for this product launch for this year. Now, this year, we are introducing a couple new colors, one paint and one stain, that really do reflect the latest fashion in both kitchen and bath designs. Now, throughout the whole day today, we will be talking about color where it fits into the marketplace, and not only just in kitchens, but also in bathrooms as well. Now, the last part that we have here is really about a new, smarter focus. And this is the key part of it, is that we are refining our product categories and catalogs to really focus on the doors, the finishes, the SKUs, and modifications that really best fit the functional demands of your customers today. So with this one, we'll have a new concentration, which means that you'll be sure that you're using the most popular, on-demand, trend-forward products that Merillat Masterpiece has to offer. So we've got a lot to cover. So it's going to start today by talking a little bit about our brand story. We will go into our evolution of color, because I think it's important to see where color has been and where it's moving to. Once we see all the changes, we'll take a look at the new finish palette, followed by our new SKU and enhancement section. Now, we're going to do something a bit different this year for SKU and enhancements. I know typically we always jump right into all those new modifications, new SKUs, and all the details. But this year, we're going to start out by talking about 2020 design. Now, 2020 design, as we know, is key to a lot of our business today. It's where designs get created and sold. So we've got a lot of great updates to 2020. We have improved add-ons. There's a brand new automated tool which will go and basically help us out with a new change to the product line. We will also have a lot of graphic enhancements. And then after we're done talking 2020, then we'll come back through and talk about those product announcements. Now, when we look at the brand story for Merillat, we see that the Merillat brand is redefining the way that we work to work better for you. And that's really what this year is all about, is making sure that you have the right choices at your fingertips, helping you as a designer, but also helping the consumer as they get started in their cabinet journey. There's a lot for them to learn. So again, giving them the most fashionable and on-trend products is key. Now, first, we're going to talk about the NKBA trends. Now, the NKBA trends for 2022, if anybody had a chance to read the report, it really is all about nature-inspired design. So we can look at this example of that beautiful nature-inspired image to the left, and then find out that kitchen to the right can be created by using cottage and translucent driftwood. So again, finding out those small nuances of a nature photograph. I always say nature doesn't make mistakes, right? If you find the right colors, there's a passion that usually goes behind certain color palettes and certain nature-inspired things. So here's what they're saying in the industry today. New colors, tones, and finishes will align with nature-inspired design. So we're finding out the design is moving away from gray and white as primary colors. And guys, I can't tell you how excited that I am to see that we're finally moving away from the all gray or the all white kitchen. Now, even though I know I'm saying we're moving away from the all gray and all white, we also have to be aware that white and gray are not going anywhere in the marketplace today. What we are starting to see, though, is a pullback of the all white kitchen. People are starting to add in more color, more natural wood tones. They're retaining those whites as neutrals, but again, as I made mention, accenting with the colors and lighter wood grains. Nature-inspired colors will grow in prominence, including greens and blues. Now, the top kitchen colors, top bathroom colors, we're talking cabinets and backsplash, wall coverings, paint, artwork, vanities, and fabric. We're seeing, again, a lot of those greens and blues, again, honing in on those nature-inspired themes, in addition to golds and metallics. And then finally, this kind of goes along with a lot of our offering this year as well. Even for fixtures, we're seeing that customers today want less shine, more matte in their rooms. So less shine, more matte, more brush finishes, mostly in black, stainless nickel, and also in pewter. Now, I do want to talk about our evolution of color. I told you that as we began our session today. So prior to 2019 and 2020, we had a few neutrals, we had a few cools, we had a lot of warms, a lot of those warm stain tones. Now, we've always had unfinished. So whether somebody's looking for a neutral, a warm, or a cool, they can find an unfinished product if they really want to match something that was already existing within their home. Now, we had a 2019 to 2020, not many things changed during that time. I'm going to go back to that in 1 second. We had in 2021, we had translucent, we had a bunch of new finishes that came out. Now, new for this year, we had shortbread. We also see the fact that a lot of those warm categories with the introduction of shortbread, with those neutral colors really moving ahead in prominence, with those cool colors moving ahead in prominence, a lot of those warm tones will fall out of the system. Now, we also have our painted palette. Now, what I love about our painted palette, you saw that 2019, 2020, where we had no new intros for stain. However, when we look at 2019 and 2020 in the paint, that's when we brought out color match. And color match is really all about finding that unique color or even unique shade of color that a customer really wants. Let's think about white for an example. You would think white is white, but as designers, we all know that white is all sorts of shades of white, and there is a right white for your customer. That's why color match in 2019 and 2020 was such a huge introduction. Now in 2021, we added a lot of new finishes, weathered picket fence and aged picket fence, warm white. All three of those were amazingly popular with customers, again, going down that avenue of nature-inspired themes. Now, new for this year, we have one new paint coming out, and that's going to be in the gray and black category of more of an earthy tone of overcast. So it's more of that nature-inspired gray, again, that will fit in with those natural tones, and the nature-inspired themes that customers want today. Now, a couple things here. We do know that with the popularity of warm white, aged picket fence, canvas, dove white, we see some of those warm neutrals and English green as well, that really deep, rich, bold. English green, not quite right for the marketplace yet. We're a little too ahead of curve on that one. So if anybody's looking for an English green style of cabinetry, just remember the color match is there. We have it for all finish shades, but to streamline the selection process for your customer, we will now have this as your new paint palette. Now, we're not going to stop there. We're going to look at one more trend that's really going to drive the color and also top coat that we use in our cabinetry today. Now, for the Master Coat finishing system, we saw the original Master Coat top coat. You see the one on the left that had a satin sheen, a little bit more of a sheen. So what we saw on this one is that around the profile, you can actually pick up some of that reflective property from that satin finish. Now, we also had the Master Coat suede top coat. Now, with the suede, you'd still see some sheen around the outside, but it was very muted. It was very minimized, more of a matte finish. So when you do that, what you actually saw was more of the door profile. You saw those individual door cuts. There wasn't as many reflections to get in the way. We also saw more of the wood grain and more of the true color of the door. Now, we know today that customers are looking for a lot of matte in their cabinets, and whether it's a cabinet door or the fixtures. Now, there's a big value here because remember, the Master Coat suede top coat, there was an upcharge to get that one. So going back to the trends, looking at where matte finishes fall in today, we see that matte finishes have moved ahead. They've surged in the popularity today, and they now fit directly between painted and stained. And guys, this one comes from Ricky, the Research Institute for Cooking and Kitchen Intelligence. So what we have here is a very prominent feature that matte is finished, is actually should be featured as a finish component for cabinetry. So here's the good thing. Both of those options are going to go away, and now we're going to streamline the whole process. So we now have a new standard Master Coat top coat, and that's going to be a lower sheen, again, giving the customers what they want. Now, the benefits to making this move. First of all, it's on trend and trend forward. We know customers want it today. We know customers are going to want it moving forward. It adds additional value to your design. So think about it this way. Whereas before we had to have an upcharge to do that suede top coat, it's now included as the standard. So now we can use that upgrade money instead of putting it into the suede top coat. Maybe there's a favorite storage solution that you can now invest in on that side instead and make the kitchen a better storage facility as well as the beauty they're looking for on the outside. Now, it will simplify the customer selection process. Hands down, it's one less thing for a customer to think about, so it makes their process easier, and it also simplifies your process as a designer. One less thing we have to remember to talk to the customer about if they wanted that low sheen or the standard sheen. Again, going by the trends, we see that they want that lower sheen. Now, here's the key thing, and I love this. I made mention to it just a minute ago. The new low sheen top coat, no additional charge. So the great thing is that we've gone to this as a standard because we know customers want it. So now everybody's going to benefit of a new lower sheen with no premium upcharge. And the very last thing, guys, it's already gone into effect. This actually started back on August 11th, and we've been manufacturing cabinets with that new lower sheen since that time. So really great feature coming out and has been going out since the 11th of August. All right, so now that we learned a little bit about what customers are looking for and also sheen, let's take a look at a few new finishes, and we're going to start out with a brand new one of shortbread. Now, shortbread is a lighter, more neutral version of barley, which we introduced just a couple of years back. So it's a lighter, brighter version, again, in that very neutral category. This one's actually great. It's just a little bit above more of a natural finish. So really great for mid-century modern, really great for Scandinavian designs, or even simply as we see here, mix and match with a paint in a typical cabinet setting, really beautiful complementary color. Now, shortbread is available in 5 wood species. It's available in maple all the way over to hickory. Now, this does play a very important part because with that lighter color, it really also looks beautiful with a wide variety of hardware as well. So we see gold champagne all the way down to ancient bronze. You see those color values up against the shortbread. Now, there's one other thing I want to talk about shortbread with, and that's going to be because of the wide species availability. And I'll even go one step further and to say any cabinet, any finish that we have, any stain finish that has this wide availability on wood species as well will benefit from an expansion that we have on island end caps. Now, island end caps for this year, we are expanding them a bit. So it's all going to be related to rustic alder and hickory. So now, new this year, all island end caps will now be available in rustic alder. So whether you choose a door, drawer, false door, we have bookcases, gateway, and transitional, all those will now be available in rustic alder. Now, key note here. When we look at the island end caps with doors, drawers, or false doors, we see that they are available with either a sterling or a tapered leg. Now, what I really love, though, is that the gateway, the bookcase, and the transitional, those are our 3 most popular island ends that we have available today. And we're even expanding those to now be available in hickory. So if you've tried to do those hickory designs in the past and hit that roadblock, again, this year is all about making it easier to design. So by adding these in more wood species, now you can mix and match like never before. And here's a couple key things about the island end caps. And I always like to talk about these because we usually have questions about things like the depth. So usually the question we have is, David, the depth on an island end cap, for example, is 26 inches deep, but my base cabinet is 24. Why are the island end caps a bit deeper than the base cabinet? And it really comes down to what we see here is that when you align an island end cap, it gets to be pulled forward, so it now aligns with the front of your doors and your drawers. So you have the spacing for the door bumpers and the hinges, and you have the space for that to pull forward. So what that gives you is a true furniture built-in style and design. And if you're talking about a standard base cabinet, that's going to be 24 inches deep. You now have room to put a panel on the back, and that special depth actually will cover over the depth of the panel, as well as the doors and drawer fronts on the front. Now, there is another benefit to the island end caps, and it doesn't matter which ones they are, and that's going to be the finished back standard. Now, you see here on the left side that island end cap, here it's actually a transitional island end, and we see that the inside of that, the back side of the island end cap is finished. So depending on which one you choose, you'll have a different finishing technique. But think about how easy this is, guys. We have the finished back of the island end cap. Here we can choose on a base cabinet up to 48 inches wide, we can choose a finished back construction modification. So you can literally take these 3 items out of the box and assemble your island for a really beautifully finished item with just 3 components. Well, let's talk about those for just a moment. To finish the back of an island end cap, if we have one that has decorative legs, you will have a 3/4 inch panel on the back. Now that 3/4 inch panel will feature a 3/4 inch single bead edging up along each side, giving you a finished front, a finished back, and a finished edge. Now, if it's on the bookcase, the gateway, or the transitional, those will actually feature locking miter corners instead. So for all those, they feature the locking miter, so not a typical face frame connection. It gives it a true, almost a solid wood feel by going to those locking miters in the corner. So a lot of great options here with the island end caps. Now, the next paint we're going to talk about, or the next finish, I should say, is a brand new paint of Overcast. And Overcast is a nice, light, really earthy tone gray. It is available in maple and evercore. And again, we see those same hardware selections come down. Again, just so we can see the contrast of each hardware style against that overcast paint. Now with overcast, we're going to talk about overcast with shiplap planks because what we know is a design consideration in the marketplace today is about shiplap planks. All we have to do is talk to our customers that have been out there and they've watched HGTV. They've been to the internet, they've researched and found ideas online. And in a lot of cases, shiplap planks will be part of those ideas. So here's the really great thing. In 2020 design, when you go to your local browser, you're going to find shiplap planks available horizontally and vertically. And you can see from those images, not just a individual horizontal or vertical plank, but you can also order these in a panel version. Now, key note about the panel. The panel itself is actually a bunch of individual planks that are used to create that panel. So the panel is there for your design purposes, makes designing a bit easier, but just realize that the customer will receive a box of individual planks because this is true shiplap. It's meant to overlap and create those true shiplap panels. So when it comes to the shiplap, couple things. If you choose the panel itself, when you drop the panel version into 2020, you're going to get your very first pop-up that's going to ask you what's the width and the height of that panel. And when you put those dimensions in, 2020 will calculate the size and the item needed, and it will drop the proper number of planks into your shopping cart. But it doesn't just stop there. It also goes one step further. Into here, we see the quantity. We have either staggered or joint lines. So once you place it into your design and it gets placed, go back to your shiplap panel, double click on it. When you go to the variables tab, in the variables tab, you'll have an option for either the staggered or those stacked joint lines, and it will reallocate the correct number to fit the option that you choose. So you not only get to show it, but it also corrects the number on the inside. So really great ways to use shiplap planks for your cabinet designs. Now, overall, we know we gave you a bunch of information about the trends. We also gave you a new stain and a new paint. So let's take a look at the new refreshed color palette. So first of all, we see from Dove White to Onyx Black. We also have that color match in the mix. We see where that new overcast fits in. And again, overcast was just the right shade of gray to mix into our previous gray offering. Now we see moonshine, overcast, pebble gray, gray loft, and riverbed, giving you a really nice mix of classic grays and also earth tone grays. And we can go one step further. We could bring in shortbread. And when we look at shortbread and all those different wood species, we could really see a lot of ways to mix and match. And that's really what it's all about in today's design trends. So let's look at our brand new color palette and how they really fit into those design trends. So first, we'll talk about our white and neutral palette. And for this palette, we'll have the classic Dove White. We have warm white. Again, warm white was introduced just a couple of years ago and has remained very, very popular in design today. We have canvas and we have cottage. So 4 different colors in that white and neutral palette. Now, the reason why these are so important, now, as we know, white's not going to go anywhere. However, as I made mention, designs are moving away from all white. People are getting out of that safe zone of the all white kitchen. They're starting to design with more wood grain visibility, clean natural styles, warmth, and more storage. So here's some things that designers are saying today. Number 1, we're designing with more of a combination of wood and painted cabinets. They're also saying lighter stained wood showing more grain. And I love the fact that we're getting back to showing grain again in cabinet design. And then more natural wood tones, again, going away from all white. So if you think about the fact that we know white's going to be around, but they're starting to pair white with other natural wood tones, again, in this palette for that Dove White, we could pair beautifully Cannon Gray, beautiful shades that mix well together. For a warm white, we can use Weathered Bourbon. For canvas, we can use the new shortbread. And for cottage, we can use that barley. And remember that shortbread is just a lighter version of barley, which was previously introduced. So whether it's a gray or whether it's a neutral, you're going to see a lot of those gray and neutrals in the industry and categories today. Now, next, we'll take a look at our gray palette. We have moonshine, pebble gray, gray loft. And I'm going to stop just at those three. So we have three versions of more of a true gray. And we know that people are looking for true gray, but again, those nature-inspired images, all we have to do is look at that background to find out that there's grays that also should have a bit of an earthy tone. So that's where your overcast and also the existing riverbed will come in. Now, the reason why these are all so great, we can look at the other kitchen trend we see today, and that's on those monochromatic color schemes. So what we find is that for kitchen cabinets today, 42% from NKBA are being done in a monochromatic design. Now, the kitchen image that you see there to the left, perfect example of that monochromatic design. It's used by combining overcast, that brand new overcast on each side of that range hood, and moonshine for the island and also for the range hood itself. And then you see a bunch of other, lights and grays and other neutrals that are added in, really creating that monochromatic design. Now, on the opposite side of the scale, I love the fact that bold is increasing. It's actually up to 37% of everything will go with a bold or contrasting color, which is where my heart lies. I love those contrasting colors. Now, for the bathroom, though, we also see these monochromatic schemes are even higher in popularity. So for the bathroom, kind of an obvious thing here is that bathrooms are typically much smaller. So with that smaller space, people are less likely to go with those bold or contrasting colors, more likely to go with that monochromatic, so there's not a bunch of competing colors in one space. However, if we look at the monochromatic, we can do the exact same thing here. We can use overcast for the wainscot for the walls, and then we can use moonshine for the cabinetry along that back wall. So again, we still get to create our monochromatic design. It's soft, it's neutral, it really fits into the design categories, and we've mixed a classic gray, the really light gray of moonshine, with more of an earthier tone of overcast on the other side. Now, we also have black. Now, black is available in a painted on maple, but also remember, black is the only one in the onyx that's also available to be painted on oak. And I love painted oak because it gives you some texture along with that rich, deep color. So here's the key thing. Neutral colors will be prominent in cabinet design for the next 3 years. And what I always tend to forget, even myself, I always forget that black is actually considered a neutral. So what we find is that using neutrals is important for cabinet design. It really helps to set a lot of other colors off in a right way. And I'm going to go back by 2 sets here. I want us all to look at that black kitchen to the left-hand side, but it's amazing. If you mix it with some white, if you mix it with some wood tones, it really softens the look of a black kitchen. And as we see, black is a neutral and it actually comes in before brown. So here we can use classic onyx black. We can mix and match that with a classic lagoon, giving a nice color offset. We can also use a translucent monument gray in oak. So we have the oak black and we have the oak translucent monument gray. We have that same texture, but 2 very different finishes, which complement each other very, very nicely. Now for green, truly nature inspired here, right? We have serenity, bonsai, and rainfall. And what we know in cabinet design today is that green is very important. Now, here's a key thing. We're talking overall cabinet design. We're going to talk islands next, and islands specifically fall into a different color category than what we see here. So as we know, whites will be the most popular. However, people are adding in greens and blues for, again, that warmth and inspiration from nature. Now, greens and blues, pretty close overall in the kitchen as a whole, right? So we see green number 1, blue following at number 2. Now for the bathroom, we also see that the top of mind emerging bathroom color is also green. So we see greens and blues again. White has fallen behind a number 3 for bathrooms. And personally, I love seeing the fact that people are actually getting more in tune with color again. We're leaving that safe space of just a white kitchen or a white bathroom, and we're adding in those wood colors and also those pops of green and blue again. Now for the island, I love the island because the blue palette speaks really truly to the island. So we have lagoon, we have harbor, and we also have midnight. So for harbor and lagoon and midnight, we're going to talk about islands and what customers want in their islands today. Now, I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to know that your customers are going to be eating meals and doing food prep at those islands. What I was still a bit surprised by is work from home and school work is still so high that it almost matches food prep and eating meals in the kitchen. So think about those island end caps we talked about earlier. They make a fantastic and quick little setup to do a seating area on the back of an island if your space allows. So be sure you're adding in a small area, could be on the back of an island, really just to create that work from home and school work. But here's the reason why blue is so important when it comes to islands. Overall, on a national scale, blue is the #1 color for island design today. 26%. NKBA says 26% across the nation, islands are blue. 18% are in gray, 10% are in black. I kind of love the fact that 8% is white. So you can see how far back white is scaling for island designs. Blue, that nature inspired, has really moved ahead. Now, we also know that there are some folks out there that would really love to personalize their own space. So think about the color match palette. It's going to be Sherwin-Williams, Valspar, Benjamin Moore, and Behr. So thousands of colors from all those companies that they can actually really find just the right one to personalize their space. And what we know today is that the aged and weathered finishes, they're being sold and sold and sold. People love the aged and weathered finishes. So just to put it into context, in case you didn't know, did you know that it's actually 5% less to personalize a room with a custom color match color rather than using a weathered or aged finish? So think about all the weathered and aged we already sell. We could actually add a personal color match kitchen on for less as a great two-tone pairing. Now, what I really love here is all those doors, all those little side profiles you see at the bottom. I went out to the color match room and I took a picture of just one of the shelves on some of the colors we've created in a week. And that represents a lot of nature-inspired colors, right? We have a lot of blues, a lot of greens are in there. But we also see a lot of creams, a lot of grays, even shades of white. Now, in a lot of cases, we can look at that really bold, I'm going to call it more of a yellow, kind of a coppery, definitely mustardy color. Not going to sell a lot of those, but it was the right color for somebody's space. And the great thing about color match, it's not as expensive as many people believe it is. And you could really design those really interesting and personalized spaces by using the program. So let me ask you guys, this is just a random question, but what is your favorite painted color grouping? Actually, let me change it. Let me ask it a different way. We're going to do that for the stain. In this one, we're going to ask it in regards to the island because I want to test that theory of NKBA. So for your last painted island design, which painted color grouping did you use? Did you use white and warm? Did you use gray? Did you use black? Did you use green, blue, or color match? And Lauren, I'll turn it over to you to let us find out what folks are saying out in the audience.
All right. Seeing, oh, you guys are good, putting a lot of good stuff in here. So a lot of blues, greens, a lot of greens, serenity, black.
Oh, love it.
White and harbor, So I think natural, so seeing a lot of blues, then greens coming in.
And that's what I'm really interested in seeing. I've been hearing a lot of islands being designed in green, so I'm curious about that island slide next year, what that's going to change to. But definitely what we see in the trends, blues are leading the pack overall. Thank you, Lauren. Thanks everybody in the audience. All right, let's take a look now at our stain palette. We'll run through these pretty quick. So in our neutral stain palette, we have natural, we have shortbread, barley, ginger, and husk. Now, what I love about these is they really fit a major design category. And again, as we know, we're moving away from the all white and all gray kitchen. Now we're retaining those whites as neutrals, but again, accenting with more color and lighter wood grains. So the cabinet that we see to the right, that little setup around the range, really fits to this trend. We see the warm white. We see that bolder pop of color by using the harbor and blue. And then we see just those accenting of the lighter wood grain, the husk, floating shelves, husk for the toe kick, and husk for a 3/4 inch side panel on each of those base cabinets. So adding in just a little bit of that to decorate around. Now the warm stain palette is honey spice, praline, chocolate, cognac, cafe, and peppercorn. Now I want to talk to you guys for just a moment about hardware. Now, hardware, whether it's in the warm palette or any other palette, what we know today by what's being asked for in the industry is, again, less shine, more matte, more brushed hardware in a variety of colors. Now, just a reminder on this one. In 2020, 2021, Merillat Masterpiece Collection revamped their entire hardware collection. So it's no longer based in the year 1975. We actually have some beautiful new pieces of hardware that have been added to the collection. Now, we always want to make sure that we keep designing at the forefront of everything we do because we know that it's better to be able to show customers what they're going to get. So just as a reminder, we see the matte black in the bottom row. Then we see the Calvert collection of matte black up sort of in the middle of that slide. Now, just as a note, in 2020 design, we have all of our hardware is actually 3D rendered. So it shows in the design beautifully to scale. So I always recommend put hardware in with your cabinet design when you set your styles and pricing. It could really help to give customers, first of all, the complete package, but also help to avoid them making an incorrect hardware choice that maybe doesn't quite fit so well down the road. Because here we get to graphically see it in with those cabinet doors. Now, the last palette we have here for stain is our cool palette. And I'm going to admit to everybody here, the cool palette is my favorite. We have Baltic, Saddle, Molasses, Cannon Gray, and Slate. So again, white cabinets. What we find is that if somebody is doing an all-in-one color, white is still leading the pack. Nothing's going to take that away. If we do have somebody who will do that all-in-one kitchen, it's white, number one, but what I really love here is that medium wood tones, those true brown tones, follow through at number two before even gray. So these medium wood tones, these true brown tones, those cooler colors are really key here beyond white. So here's just an opinion. Which is your favorite stain color grouping before we jump into the new products? Is it neutral? Is it warm or is it cool? I've already shared with you mine. Mine's definitely the cool. So Lauren, I'll let you let us know, everybody in the audience, what everybody's saying.
All right. So looking like we are mostly cool with this group, followed by some neutral, a little bit of warm. Looks like neutral is catching up to cool so far. But definitely those are our two top players. It's cool and neutral.
And that's what we're seeing in the trends today, guys, as well, is that those neutrals and cools are really leading in predominance, which is why we see most of our new finishes are being added to those sides. The warm category has been shrinking a bit, but now the great thing is with the changes we made to the palette, you now have a fairly even coverage in all three categories. So you've got a lot of the right color choices for the right consumer. Now, these last couple, let's run through these pretty quick. Our translucent palette will feature limestone, monument gray, and driftwood. Now, for all three of these finishes, think about your translucent as a cross between a stain and a paint. So you get a little bit of that opaqueness like you see in a paint, but you still see a lot of the grain through the finish like a stain. So with maple, with oak, with hickory, you get to actually mix and match not only color, but also texture in your design. We go beyond though. Maple is available in standard and rustic. Oak is available standard and quarter sawn, and then hickory is standard and also rustic. Now, here's why it's so important. Both of these islands are featured in driftwood. One is featured in maple, one is featured in hickory. So remember, with the translucent qualities of this finish, it really does give you as a designer control not only of the color, but a lot of the texture as well and more visual interest. So the more grain that you have in your wood species, the more interest that cabinet design will present. Now for aged and weathered, we have picket fence, concrete, river rock, and also bourbon. It's available in those colors in either weathered or aged. Now for both of these finishes, for weathered and aged, they both feature the dry brushing technique, but for aged, it also features the wormholes, the random distressing, softened corners, edge rasping, and finally the burnishing material. Now here's a key thing. When we start having this next part of the conversation, just remember that for aged, weathered, and color match, the sides of your cabinets were never finished unless otherwise specified. So when you ordered one, if you actually designed with it, the side of your cabinet would show as we see to that left-hand side. But we had 2020 tools were built in. So first of all, we gave you these beautifully rendered graphics that actually have even that dry brushing technique added in. We also gave you a pop-up. So once you set your styles and pricing, we would give you a pop-up window that would show you all the ways that you could finish the sides of your cabinet. But we didn't stop there. We gave you one more design tool, and that was Smart Graphics in 2020. Now, Smart Graphics would actually change that side. It would show it as natural. But as soon as you added on any kind of a finishing end treatment that would actually upgrade to an actual finished end, it would display those finished ends in your rendering. So it was just a great way to look through the design and know if we had to make any changes. Now, the reason why that's so important, we have added in one more design tool, and it's going to be for the rest of our finishes here. But one key note, we now have a finished side automation tool in 2020. But the key thing here, guys, is it does require a 2020 design version of 13.3 or higher. So when you download the catalog, if you don't have 13.3, no worries. You could still use the catalog and add on your finished sides. We're going to show you how to do both. If you do have 13.3 or above, you can allow for the automation tool to do its thing. So when you set your styles and pricing, when you get down to the ends, it will ask you, do you want to run the automation or not? Those will be your choices. So here, if you run the automation, if you have 13.3, it will automatically add those finished ends for the exposed ends. It will give you two choices. If you're in particle board, it'll add on HFVEB, a vinyl end. If you're in plywood, it'll add on an HFPEB or a plywood end. Now, what we know today is that unfinished ends are now going to be standard with this new catalog. So whether it's a stain, a paint, translucent, stain with glaze, or paint with highlight, all of our finishes will now be the same as what we've already had with the aged, weathered, and color match. But we're going to make these ones a bit easier because we know they're sold much more. So I'm going to give you some information on that. Now, first of all, the finished ends. When we add on just the finished ends, those finished ends on an exposed end will be no charge. We're not going to increase the price to finish the end. So here's what that's going to look like. If we use the automated tool in 2020, what we're going to see here is we go from a kitchen on the left. We see the natural ends on the island. We see the natural ends next to the window. We even see that natural end next to the microwave. When the finish end module runs, it will add on the corresponding either HFVEB or HFPEB, depending on your construction. Now, there's two triggers that actually run this. Number one, it's every time you save a design. So if you're using that 13.3 and above version of the automated tool, every time you hit save, it will actually apply that to your cabinet design. Now we know that also what somebody might try to do is run a report. So we've added that as trigger number 2. So even if you forget to save it, and as soon as you go in to run a report, it will also run it there. So no matter which one you follow through on, it will give you those finished ends applied. Now we do also have, if you don't have the automated tool, we have ways that you can automatically upgrade your exposed ends on your own. So you could actually upgrade both the left and right-hand side of a typical base wall or tall cabinet. So here's a couple things that's changing. So for 1/2-inch finished ends, notice it says here, except weathered, aged, and color match. Always, when it came to weathered, aged, and color match, the only way to get a finished end on those was to go to a 3/4 inch side. So nothing changes for the weathered, aged, and color match. What we've added in here, though, is a chance for you to add on an HF VEB if you're in standard construction, or an HF PEB as long as you're in that all plywood construction. That gives you the chance to manually add on your finished end. Now, 3/4 ends are always still available, and they will always automatically upgrade the side as well. And as we know that for many of us, as we're doing designs, most of us are putting on FPEB on those exposed ends anyway. So that would also take care of matching the end. Now we have a couple ways that we could also look at upgrading. We can go from a standard end. We can use a wood skin and replacement door, a matching end panel, or also the attached decorative to go ahead and finish. Now, guys, we're going to be looking at another new era of efficiency. So we've given you one efficient way of navigating 2020 on an automated tool, but we've also added it in there that in case you don't have that version of 2020, you could still manually add those pieces on. Now let's talk about 2020 design and the improvements for 2020. We've got a few things left to talk about in our last 13 minutes together today. Now for enhancements, I love this next new enhancement. We are now adding on a 3rd cabinet catalog for Merillat Masterpiece Collection, and you can now design in 3 different colors. So now designing those 3 different nature-inspired colors, easier than ever before. We've also made fixes on a couple key things like the flush back construction. So previously the flush back construction, which gives you a finished back of a base cabinet, didn't actually show the matching color. So with this launch, with the new catalog, that will be included to actually feature that matching back graphically. We're also fixing this. So I will make a special call out. Matt, I saw you were on our call today, so thank you for joining. I know that this one is because of the conversation we had. So guys, we listen to every conversation we have and we build in fixes into our catalogs. Now, in the past, if you had a wider cabinet that you voided the door on, as you see there, the previous one on the top, 2020 would actually take out the center stile because it viewed that center stile as part of the door. Now, us as designers, us as cabinet makers, we know that center stile is going to be required for support, but it gave a bad perception, right? It made it look like it came out. We have fixed that graphic issue. So now if you do a void door, no more surprises for customers, no more surprises for designers. Now, if you void the door, the center stile will stay in the cabinet. And that way, then you can either choose a different design option or choose something different as a workaround. So again, we've graphically fixed that void door and center stile. Now we've also added, or I shouldn't say we've added, we fixed our change extended styles. So extended styles are available to the left or to the right, but they were broken on one side. So essentially, if you think about extended styles, we have 2 options. We have extended style, which gives you 3 inches of an extended face frame on the left, right, or both. Change extended style is different. And by the way, guys, just so you know, you don't have to choose both. Choose either standard for 3 inch or change extended if you want to choose it in 1/16 of an inch increments. So for example, if I want a 1/2 inch or a 5/8 or a 5/16, whatever that dimension is in 1/16 increments, to extend my frame out so I don't have to have a filler on site, don't have to cut it. You can now do that, and it's been fixed for the left and the right-hand side. And the last one, I'm super excited about this one too, and that's going to be our cut for glass and decorative inserts. So guys, when it comes to adding these on, when you choose a decorative insert, that already includes the cut for glass, it's already built in. So if in design you chose cut for glass and a decorative insert, we've added on two things that we only really needed to choose one. So we're going to simplify this. We've now been able to get our glass doors and our cut for glass added to our modification validation. So now what you're going to see is that it's going to validate your selections. When you choose cut for glass, all of the decorative inserts will fall off the list. Because again, we only need to choose one. If you want a decorative insert, when you choose that first, the cut for glass will now fall off the list as available, because again, you only need to choose one. So we're going to make it so you can't choose both. Simplify the process again for you as the designer and also for the customer. Now, in the last few minutes that we have here today, we're going to talk about a new trend, and that's a wall of talls. Now, guys, just think about some of your last designs if you actually have included anything like these. We have been seeing a very large design trend of going to large walls of storage. So what we're seeing is, regardless of color, we're seeing these walls of talls. So what people are looking for is better food storage option, refrigeration, and cooking methods. They're looking for larger storage for countertop appliances and concealed storage. And then finally, people are looking for deeper base cabinets and fewer upper cabinets. So we have a lot of new things specifically built for this trend into our new products for the year. So first, we have our pantry storage cabinet, and the first thing is all about increasing the number of sizes so we can actually design with them more effectively. So before, we had these available in 18 and 24, and now they'll be available 15 through 36. And it's kind of a best of both worlds, if you will. You get a base cabinet down below, some sort of a drawer stack, and then you get that really tall storage up above, more sizes. Now, previously, it was a preset drawer configuration, and now we're going to give you the options of either 2, 3, or 4 drawers. I'm not going to read this, but I just want you to see, when we talk about simplification, making it easier for you as a designer for the Merillat Masterpiece Collection, this is directly from the spec book. So depending on the height that you would get, you would have to determine the drawer configuration. Now, making things much easier, it's now for all heights, the top of the drawer will always align with the top drawer of a standard base cabinet. So this is what it actually looks like. On the left, you see those gray cabinets. That's the old drawer configuration. The new drawer configuration has that nice, consistent top drawer, again, aligning with the top drawer of a typical base cabinet. Now, we also show in that same picture some toe kick, or at least one toe kick option. So just know that for any of these, whether it's a 2, 3, or 4 drawer, again, they'll align with a 2, 3, and 4 drawer base cabinet. We still have those factory attached decorative toe kick mods. And we've also included, and we've upgraded in 2020, our vanity decorative skirts. Remember, for a vanity and a kitchen cabinet, the toe kick height and depth is the exact same size. So it's really easy to pull in a vanity decorative skirt and bring those over for a kitchen cabinet. Best thing is, for this year, with the catalog download, those will now be featured as an improved graphic, and they will now show as the correct size. So just note that if you want to use the vanity decorative skirts, you can use them now easier and better than ever before. Now, again, going to that increased depth, with the last 5 minutes we have, we'll run through these last few things. We are looking for bigger cabinets, so we can now modify our base cabinets to be increased to 27 inches deep. So 1/16 of an inch increments. Now, key thing is that 1/16 of an inch increments, it makes building out items like this. If we have an oven that needs to be built out to 27 inches below a range, we can now simply add on that increase to 27 mod And now there's no field box building behind for support by that contractor. It just makes things super easy. But the doors and roll trays, those drawers and roll trays, they will be sized for a 24-inch deep cabinet. So if you do get one that has a drawer, just realize that it will have the offset on the back side. Now, the maximum cabinet width is 36, but then when we look at the other increased depth options, our wall cabinets were already available to be increased for many of them to 24. Refrigerator wall cabinets, many of them to 27. Tall cabinets to 27, and that includes utility cabinets and tall oven cabinets, and now base cabinets as well. So a lot of ways to design deeper and bigger than ever before. Now, this is a small change, but I think it's kind of an important one. It's for our wall wine racks. Our base wine racks will also follow suit in a very short time coming, so stay tuned. But for now, wall wine racks will be featured with a drill and dowel construction. So this will eliminate the holes that are on the outside of the box. So any of those little nail holes that we once saw, those will be replaced because we're now drilling them internally and using a doweled construction instead. And because of that, it can now be used vertically and horizontally in design. So know that when you go into the catalog, you'll now have both options represented for easy placement in your design. And we do also have, again, designing bigger. This, guys, is just a new size option. We had a 36-inch angled sink base. This is not a sink front. This is a full sink base. We now have added in a 42. Now, for that 42-inch angled sink base, you're going to see that it does have a 25.5-inch wide face frame. It's a left or right door. It has a false drawer front. And then the adjacent cabinetry can be installed with or without fillers. And that's a key thing because the door, it's going to use a half overlay door and a half overlay hinges, even on a full overlay. So feel free to design with cabinets right up to. They will work because of the door size and scale. And we have two last things to talk about here in our last couple minutes. One is a pretty easy one. It's a new modification of void utility shelves. Now, as you know, our current availability with utility cabinets is either to choose it with 4 deluxe roll trays or shelving. But we've heard you as designers, you said, we want a true shelfless option for our utility cabinet. So we are adding in a new modification of VUS. That's a void utility shelf. That way, then you can remove all the shelves from the lower section. Whatever shelves are predetermined to be in the upper section will still remain. This just gives you the bottom section that's now open if you want it for more broom and cleaning storage like we see here to the left. Just remember, there are extended top and extended bottom versions of all of our utilities. So choose the one that gives you the best size opening for that void shelf modification. Now, the last thing, the last minute that we have here, guys, we're going to give you an easier way of ordering your touch-up kits. So here's the great thing, an easier ordering of touch-up materials. This is a small detail. To me, I feel like I've saved the best for last because, again, this simplifies our process much easier. So as a designer, you no longer need to specify the finish in that nomenclature. It will be driven by the color that the catalog that you're designing in has been selected for. So what this means, previously you used to have to choose ACE84, for example, ACGN, ACEG, a lot of different ways. Some would require nomenclature. Some would require an abbreviated code. Some would require just a couple of letters that somehow fit that design and that color. So we're simplifying, and now you only need to order AC. You only need to order FS or TP. And remember, in 2020 design, if you're ever searching into 2020 design, you need 3 characters to start that search. So in this case, we can type in AC and simply hit the space bar. That space bar is a blank character. So you can find your AC, your FS, or your TUP very, very easily. Now, Lauren, I know I've taken us right down to the end here at 11 o'clock. I'm going to pop up a couple things here on the availability of our overview, and I'll turn it over to you and see if everybody wants to stick around for any Q&A. I'll turn it over to you and see if we have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Great content covered today. We do have a few questions. So
Sure.
first one is, in Monument Gray, will the sides be oak veneer?
Okay. So great question. So in Monument Gray, it depends, number one, on your wood species. So Monument Gray, translucent Monument Gray is available on maple, oak, and hickory. So it will follow suit with whatever that wood species will be. Now, here's going to be the key thing. If you choose translucent Monument Gray in a standard construction where it has just an engineered wood or a particle board construction, if you choose the free coordinating side, that's going to be an HFVEB for vinyl, meaning it's a vinyl print. To get that with a upgraded wood side, if you have it ordered in oak, you could either choose a 3/4 inch plywood side, just an FPEB, or if the cabinet's already in APC, then you can choose the HFPEB for the half plywood and both. And that plywood will get you the matching wood veneer that will match the wood species as well.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Next
Absolutely.
question is, will a lower vanity height cabinet be available to have 4 drawers now?
So vanities, the actual layouts of our vanities have not changed with this launch. So shorter vanities, just to make sure we have more of a usable drawer height, will stay the same. But remember, we still have a couple different vanity heights. I know some folks are still looking for that 31.5, 34.5. We give both, but drawers actually will follow by the height.
Great. All right. We're going to switch topics a little bit. So talking about unfinished ends. So if you run the automated tool, can you go in and manually change the ends? For example, you design in standard construction and run the automation, but you want exposed ends to be plywood, but to keep the rest standard construction.
Great question. So here's the great thing. The automated tool, you, as I may mention, you can choose to use it or not use it. And even if you used it, you could still go back into the individual cabinets and you can still change what the modification has been automatically applied for. So let's say, for example, it automatically finishes your 1/2 inch end. Let's, a great example here would be is my island cabinet. I have a single base 36 as my island. I ran the tool and I'm in standard construction. So it just put the vinyl ends on, but I want to upgrade that to a FPEB. I want a 3/4 furniture plywood. You can go into that cabinet and you can still manually remove the pre-attachment and you can still choose that 3/4 plywood side. So great question. Yep.
All right. Next one. Got a very high compliment. You're an excellent instructor, David.
Thank you.
Coming from one of our top customers. So we appreciate that. Do have a question with it as well.
Yes.
Is the TUK still included if you order the sink base?
Great question as well. Yes, nothing changes. So the touch-up kit will always still be there. So same as we've always done, nothing changes with the touch-up kit inside the sink base. It will come in the matching color of the sink base. My philosophy has always been, though, we know that the contractor is going to be the first one to get hold of that touch-up kit, and they're going to use it. They're going to use it to fill the nail holes when they go ahead and attach the crown molding. They're going to use it for filling screw holes and all kinds of other stuff. So my big push is usually to make sure you get an extra one so the customer has a brand new one. Set that aside at the job site, and then if a tricycle hits a door, if a dog scratches the door, or whatever it may be, they actually will have the extra one, an untouched one on hand for down the road. But nothing's changed. They still will definitely come with.
All right, awesome. I know we are 5 past. I'm going to go ahead and do one more question. If we did not get back to you, we have all of your information. We will reach out to you guys directly to get you some answers. So last question, back to unfinished ends. If we do not use the finish end side tool, when I click on the cabinet, does it give me left, right options for the finished ends?
That's a great question as well. It will actually give you, there's no left and right options. So when you choose even if it's not, let's say you manually put the HFVEB. or HFPEB, whichever one you choose, that will still do the left and right hand side. So that part of it stays the same as like when we normally would finish an end. It's always for both sides. That stays in effect. It is for both sides of your cabinet, will be that same way. Great question.
Okay, awesome. All right. Do you have some questions still coming in? I'm going to ask one more. I know we're getting a lot about the finish end, so want to make sure we answer those. So I know I keep lying and saying that we're going to wrap it up, but promise, last question. Again, if we did not respond to you directly in chat or David answered it live, we will get back to you. So question is, does the automated finished ends option finish both ends or just the exposed ends?
Both ends. Yep. It'll be both the left and the right hand side.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds great. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up there since we're 7 minutes past, but thank you so much for joining. We will answer all your questions if we didn't get to it and provide the recording, but thank you so much for joining David and I today.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.